April 25th, 2022 to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Cole?
Present.
Mr. Mitchell?
Present.
Mr. Sidnor?
Here.
President Smith?
Here.
Mayor Mo?
All right. Moving on to agenda item number 3, approval of minutes of the work session on March 2nd, the 7th meeting on March 14th, and the 8th meeting on March 28th, 2022. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the minutes from work session March the 2nd, March the 14th, and March 28th for the correction that I sent to the Madam Clerk. She said she corrected.
All right. Can I get a second?
Mr. President, I'll second that motion.
All right. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sidnor, yes, I did get your note, and the minutes will be corrected to reflect the vote. Okay,
Yes.
Mr. Sidnor?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
President Smith?
Yes. All right. Moving on to agenda item number 4, report of the mayor and city council. I'll start with myself. I failed to mention a couple of weeks, about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I participated in the lip sync battle for Pilates High School. It was a wonderful event. I met a lot of the students and their parents, and I think we should do a lot more engaging with the students here when they call on us. So that was great. And I just want to tell them kudos for putting on a wonderful performance. All right, moving on to Councilman Sidnor.
Thank you, Mr. President. On April 22nd, I attended Earth Day, the Navy Federal Credit Union organization, bank here in the city. Always want to support the city and the community outreach. And so last year we did Earth Day at the park. The Earth Day again today. I want to thank Park and Recreation for supplying us the equipment. Also attended a virtual conference, returning citizens on Friday. Something that had been going on for a little while. Returning citizens coming back from prison and the community, giving them resources, things of that nature, giving them a second chance. And I think this is sad enough. Just want to commend the Laurel Police Department again for the outstanding work they do in our community all the time. We always see things on the news when police officers react to something bad. But the Laurel Police showed tremendous restraint for a situation they had last week. And just want to commend the police department for that, because like I said earlier, we see a lot of things when officers do something wrong. We can see those posts millions of times through the community. And I just commend them again. So Chief Hammond, his leadership, and the Laurel Police Department, thank you for all the wonderful work you do in our community. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Councilman Sidnor. Councilman Cole.
Last Thursday, I had the privilege of working with Laurel Elementary School and Camp Schmidt to put on a Camp Schmidt Laurel style at Riverfront Park. I helped lead the nature trail, teaching the 5th graders that were unable to go to the normal Camp Schmidt about conservatorship along the river. They also got to display their composting skills at lunchtime. I was very happy to participate in that and wanted to thank Parks and Rec for all of their help. Concludes my report, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Councilman Cole. Councilman Mitchell.
Yes. So on the 14th, we had a citizens advisory for disabilities meeting, and it was a good meeting. The county representative came, and our next meeting will be May 7th. And also I attended Laurel Resist. They had a monthly meeting, and they hosted District 21. So they gave their legislative update. It was a very good meeting and a very detailed update. And lastly, on the 9th of April, I attended the 100 Black Men's Brunch, which was a very phenomenal event, and has encouraged me to possibly become a member in the future. And with that being said, that's all I got.
All right, thank you, Councilman Mitchell. All right, Mayor Mo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do want to acknowledge a police officer that was shot last week. He is doing well. He's at home, and we wish him the very best and want to thank the work that the men and women of our police department do day in and day out. And we're just very fortunate that he's still with us. So Chief, to you and your officers, thank you for what you're doing. Also want to thank members of the City of Laurel's Redistricting and Boundary Committee. They finished their work. They have submitted to the report to the Mayor and City Council, and will take further action on that as everybody's prepared to move forward with their recommendation. The Living Hope Church did have an Easter dinner. I want to acknowledge and thank them for reaching out to the community for their continued work. Also, we had the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, which the city is members of, and they had our monthly board meeting and discussed regional issues facing the region, as well as municipalities and cities and towns. I did have the opportunity to stop by the Laurel Elementary Camp Schmidt. Is that what Camp Schmidt? I'd rather call it the Laurel Elementary School camp, and we encourage them to come back anytime. I learned a lot from the kids and those that were down there talking, so we were very happy that we were able to help Laurel Elementary make this happen. And I think I was told it's probably the only one in Prince George's County that was able to do so. So we were happy to do that. The Prince George's County Municipal Association did have their chapter meeting last week at the Municipal Center in College Park. For those that may not have been down that way, College Park has a brand new city hall. So it was nice to be able to see their building and tour their building, as well as have the meeting. We did kick off during Earth Day, the one and done kickoff. There is a lot of challenges. This is a major challenge for the city. We are going to, as we said, the one and done. They are out putting out carts. I think it's roughly about 13,000 carts that we've got to put out. We are providing a 35-gallon or a 65-gallon, and we will work with the community as we have done in the past. The carts are for trash, the carts are for recycling, and then we're hopeful that people will want to compost. That is very important, and that is the next step for us to be able to reduce our trash and tipping fees, as they call. So if I can do it, you can do it. And we encourage you to read all the information. For those that may not have gotten information, we've been talking about this for about a year. As most know, there's not much of a newspaper. There is no newspaper anymore. There is challenges with the Postal Service. They were put in the mail to let everybody know as well. I've not gotten mine. I don't know if anybody else has even gotten their mail about the one and done that we put out. So there's challenges there. But today, as you know, my trash is picked up on Mondays. I left my green cart there, and we were out picking those up to go to the blue, as well as the dark black for trash. And then the light gray is for compostings. If you have questions, please let us know. You can call my office. You can call Public Works or Michelle Blair in the city administrator's office. I did have the opportunity. There was a young man, Jimmy Allen Sign, who is a Laurel resident years ago. He's made good. He's a singer and guitarist. They did an event over at the Laurel Elks Lodge last night. Brought their band in. They've been traveling all over the U.S., and it was nice to see a Laurel light do good. So I was there and was able to congratulate him and listen to their music as well. On May the 14th, I want to let everybody know it's Lake Fest 2002. That it starts at 11 a.m. until 3. It's at the Granville Goody Park. It's free admission, and it's a great time for everybody, so we encourage you to participate. On April the 27th, there's Arbor Day. It's our tree planting. That will be at the Goody Mansion over off of Cypress Street at 11 a.m. And on May the 1st, the Laurel Art Council will host an arts showcase in partnership with St. Vincent Pallotti High School and their arts program. That's 1 to 4. That'll be here in the Laurel Municipal Center. And then we want to remind everyone on May the 7th from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. will be the Main Street Festival. You've brought that back. Business community has worked hard to get that in place and do some safety measures as well. Mr. President, I'm going to go down to down below, I got quite a few proclamations here I needed to do. This is Proclamation 2022-9, whereas teachers help to establish supportive and inclusive and high-quality learning environments which provide students with education and skills they need to secure a meaningful job and a brighter futures. And whereas teachers can and have profound influence on students' learning and engagement, helping students to discover, develop, and realize their potential. And whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, coaching students, and performing community services. And whereas teachers fill many roles as listeners, explorers, role models, motivators, and mentors. And whereas it is appropriate that teachers are acknowledged for and thanked for their continued dedication and commitment to the education of our students. Now, therefore, I, Craig A. Moe, the Mayor of the City of Laurel, do hereby proclaim May the 1st through the 7th, 2002 as Teacher Appreciation Week in the City of Laurel. Encourage all citizens in the community to celebrate and express gratitude towards teachers. We have two of them. You all want to come up and accept this? Nobody behind me is a so.
I would just say, as a PE teacher at Laurel Elementary School, the 5th grade Camp Schmidt experience was incredible. No other school got to do that, and it was very much thank you to the support of the city. The kids had a blast. They got to have the campfire. That we could not have done that on our own. The wagon ride. The only thing they missed from Camp Schmidt was the overnight and the ropes course. But they didn't miss anything. It was fantastic. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you. Thank you.
Proclamation 2022-10, whereas the office of the municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the office of municipal clerk provides a professional link between the citizens and local governing bodies and agencies of the government at all levels, and whereas municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, and whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through participation in education, programs, seminars, workshops, and annual meetings of their state, province, counties, and international professional organizations. Now, therefore, I, Craig A. Moe, the Mayor of the City of Laurel, do hereby proclaim May the 1st through the 7th, 2022 as Municipal Clerks Week, and ask you to congratulate Ms. Rao, who's going to come up and accept this, since she's the only clerk in the room.
Thank you, Mayor Moe and the council members for recognizing May as Municipal Clerks Week, May 7th, I think, May 1st through the 7th. I appreciate it. It's my honor to serve as the City of Laurel Clerk since 1997, and appreciate all the support I've always received from Mayor Moe and previous mayors and council. Thank you.
Ms. Rao is also a past president of the Municipal Clerks Association, which is a state organization, so we acknowledge that as well. Proclamation 2022-11, whereas in 1962, President John F. Kennedy designated May the 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which the date falls as Police Week. And whereas our law enforcement personnel are dedicated to the communities they serve, working tirelessly to transform neighborhoods, despite facing daily threats, public safety officers embrace an innovation approaches and improving and upholding the rule of law. And whereas our officers put their lives on the line to protect ours, sometimes making the ultimate sacrifice. One death is too many, and every death is an unfortunate loss, especially to the officers' family, colleagues, and the community. The service of all who have worn the badge will never be forgotten. And now, therefore, I, Craig A. Moe, the Mayor of the City of Laurel, do hereby proclaim May the 15th through May the 21st as National Police Week in the City of Laurel. Invite and encourage all citizens to greet and thank our officers who serve our community. Chief, you want to accept that?
I want to thank the mayor and council for this. This is very meaningful, especially us this week. You'll note Officer Malone knew I was going to call him up here because he stepped out into the lobby when this started. So I also have very bright young men and women working for me. So this means a great deal to us. National Police Week comes up in 2 weeks, and our officers will be participating by picking up survivors' families, the families of officers that have fallen at the airport, and helping take care of them for a few days while they're here for the awards in recognition for their fallen officers. So from the city, this means a great deal to us. Thank you.
Proclamation 2212, whereas Public Works provides for the maintenance and construction of the City of Laurel facilities and protects the health and safety of the community, and whereas Public Works maintains 58.6 miles of streets and their accompanying sidewalks, curb gutters, and the trees throughout the city, with an ongoing program of inspection and repair. And whereas the activities and responsibility of the Department of Public Works includes administration, street maintenance, refuge collection, disposal, recycling, traffic safety, tree management, snow removal, and auto maintenance. And whereas the efficiency and quality of our dedicated personnel who staff Public Works Department is influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the important work that they perform. Now, therefore, I, Craig A. Moe, the Mayor of the City of Laurel, do hereby proclaim May the 15th through May the 21st, 2022 as National Public Works Week in the City of Laurel, and call upon all the citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the challenges involved in providing our public works and to recognize their contributions to the public works and its officials. Brian Lee is our Public Works Director. Make me look tall, will you? Want to say something, Brian?
I actually wasn't prepared to say anything, but recognize that there's hardly anything that goes on in the city where my employees aren't a part of. They really work very, 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 very hard. They work hard to make me, the staff, and the mayor look good, and I so appreciate that. So thank you all.
Two more. Proclamation 2022-13, whereas on May the 21st, 2022, will be the 12th Kids to Park Day organized and launched by the National Park Trust. And whereas National Kids to Park Day empowers kids and encourages family to get outdoors and visit America's parks. And whereas it is important to introduce a new generation to our nation's parks because of the decline in park attendance over the last decade. And whereas we should encourage children to lead a more active lifestyle to combat issues of childhood obesity, diabetes, hypertension. And whereas the National Kids to Parks Day is open to all children and adults across the country to encourage a large and diverse group of participants. And whereas National Kids to Park Day will broaden children's appreciation of the nature and the outdoors. And now, therefore, I, Craig A. Moe, the Mayor of the City of Laurel, do hereby proclaim Saturday, May the 21st, as Kids to Park Day. And Bill Bailey's here, who is our Director of Park and Recreation.
Thank you, Mayor. In recognition for this day, Parks and Recreation will be sponsoring on May 21st, we will be sponsoring a free boating pass to all those 12 and under that complete one lap around the lake. You may come into the Lake House concession and pick up a one-day boating pass to be used throughout the year. Thank you.
Our last is Proclamation 2022-14, whereas created by the International Economic Development Council in 2016, the goal of Economic Development Week is to increase awareness for local programs that create jobs, advance career development, opportunities to increase the quality of life in communities everywhere. And whereas economic development is about improving the economic well-being of our communities by improving quality of life in our residents by attracting new businesses to the community, supporting our current businesses, and ensuring that there is a tax base provided for essential services. And whereas as we recognize economic development this year during the COVID-19 crisis, it is more important than ever to shop local and support local businesses and their employees. And whereas the Mayor and City Council of Laurel and the Department of Economic and Community Development reaffirm our dedication to our local businesses by continuing to promote economic recovery and development in the city. Now, therefore, I, Craig Mo, the Mayor of the City of Laurel, do hereby proclaim May the 9th through the 13th, 2022 is National Economic Development Week. Robert Love is our director.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for recognizing International Economic Development Week. For the week, we will be highlighting the local businesses that help the city run. We'll be highlighting our local grant programs, and we're going to do a snap and share where we encourage businesses to take pictures of their operations and send them to us, and then we'll post them out on our social media to further highlight them. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. I just want to mention, I want to thank him and his staff for all the work they did, especially during the pandemic. We've lost some businesses. We're trying to attract new, and they've worked very hard at doing that, and I appreciate that. I want to acknowledge it. So thank you, Robert. Mr. President, that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, moving on to agenda item number 5, mayoral appointments. Appointment of Ronald Peterson, Juneteenth Freedom Day Planning Committee. Excuse me if I mess up your name. Jahbria, Smith-Whitehead, Juneteenth Freedom Day Planning Committee. Janice, Blitz, Environmental Affairs Committee. And Anjali, Wells, Arts Council. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to appoint all the members you just read in the record. Also, just want to say Jahbria Smith, she's a junior at Pilates High School. She signed up for the Juneteenth committee, so I want to congratulate her. A young person in the community stepping up early to give back to her community and her city.
All right, can I get a second?
I'll second, Mr. President.
All right. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Sidnor,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
President Smith.
Yes. Moving on to agenda item number 6, the general public hearing. Madam Clerk, is there anyone signed up to speak?
Mr. President, yes, Mr. Fred Smalls is signed up to speak during the general public hearing.
Okay. Mr. Fred Smalls? I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:24 p.m.
Good evening, Mr. President, Mayor Mo, council members.
For the green light.
My name is Fred Smalls. I live at 14933 Bellamy Drive here in the city. I'm here for 2 reasons. Saturday, over the weekend, my community at Bellamy was inundated with a bunch of new recycle and trash totes. To the surprise of pretty much every resident in the community, there was little or no advance word that at least reached my community. In addition to that, there was a surprise about the moving to one-day trash collection, recycle collection. While that in and of itself is not really an issue, the concern coming from my neighbors is the size of the totes now. The mayor has talked about that in his report, and I understand now that that's going to be remedied and people will have choices. I have a household of just my wife and I right now, so the tote that was provided would suffice. But there are neighbors in my community who have households of 5, 6, 7 people. Those small totes won't do. But with that said, having heard the mayor's comments about those totes and the whole effort, I'm satisfied and happy to take that back to my neighbors and let them know that that's taken care of. The second thing that I'm here to talk about is related to the Laurel Police Department. I live next door to Laurel High School, my community. And with that, every spring, we are inundated with truant high school students who come onto the property. They're smoking substances. I don't know exactly what they are, as well as just tearing up, trashing our community. They've broken some of the community swings and that sort of thing. On a daily basis, my wife will call the Laurel Police Department and she'll explain to the dispatch that there are 10, 15 students down, and faithfully, the police respond. Of course, when these young people see the officers, they just scatter and take off running. Friday, I believe it was, I had a conversation, which I generally do if I'm home, with the officers who responded, expressed, as always, my appreciation for them responding to a call, knowing that within 15, 20 minutes, other kids will be right back doing the exact same thing. A number of efforts to talk to the principal at Laurel High School have led to largely nothing. So I'm very appreciative, Chief of the Laurel Police Department, Mr. Mayor, in their efforts. And I noticed today, I think they may have gotten tired of our phone calls, that the officers are patrolling without getting phone calls now, which is positively a plus. So again, that's something I'll take back to the residents of my community. I know Bellamy isn't the only community that is plagued with these truant students. We've even had some police officers from Howard County come to our community looking for truant students. So I just wanted to publicly recognize and express my appreciation as a frequent caller to the Laurel Police Department and thank them for their efforts. Thank you.
Councilman, before you leave there, I do want to make sure everybody understands and call as many times as you need. We tell that dispatchers will take it, will send officers, but it also helps them create a record, as you're well aware, on things that are happening. So don't be afraid to call, dispatch and put those calls in. So thank you for your comments, Fred, for that tonight. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Smalls. All right. I'll close the public hearing at 6:29 p.m. and we will move on to agenda item 7A. Consideration of recommendation for street repair, Haynes Road. Director Lee, you have the floor.
Thank you again, Council President, Mayor, and council members. Bid recommendation for 312 Main Street. The Department of Public Works is requesting approval for construction of the project of parking lot improvements. The project includes improvements to the existing empty lot at 312 Main Street with pervious porous asphalt, concrete work, solar powered light installations, conduit support, and EV charging stations, and others. We put out a bid recommendation and we got 6 bid returns. We selected Superior Facilities Management as the lowest bidder at $147,581. It is the recommendation that the Mayor and City Council of Laurel award the subject contract to SMFMS, a certified minority business enterprise, disadvantaged business enterprise out of Bethesda, Maryland, for the low bid of $147,581 with an additional $35,000 as a contingency for a total of $182,581. The references for the contractor included previous work performed by the City of District Heights and for Montgomery County, Maryland, which both have been verified as acceptable. And I'm standing here if you need any more information.
Thank you, Director Lee. This agenda item was discussed at the special work session before this meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the bid recommendation for the parking lot at 312 Main Street.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Mr. President, I believe I thought we did the repairs for Haynes Road? Is that the one you just
Yes.
presented? Okay. Mr. Cole?
I thought it was Main Street that was presented.
312. Haynes is next.
I just did
believe
312.
Mr. Lee just presented for Haynes Road, Haynes Court?
Yeah.
No,
You did, I thought you did it. I thought I read it.
He did Main Street.
I did Main
All
Street
right,
first.
sorry, Main Street.
I'm sorry, so you've gone off I'm sorry, the agenda shows it, so, okay, so we're doing 312 Main Street.
Right.
My apologies, Okay, so Mr. Cole, the
Yes.
motion,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Second? Oh,
you seconded?
yes.
Okay, Mr. Cole,
Yes.
no?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Sidwell.
Yes.
President, now we'll move on to the street repair for Haynes Road.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, as we just discussed in the work session, this bid recommendation, LA 22-02, is for the Haynes Road and Haynes Court Road Improvement Plan. Department of Public Work is requesting for the construction of this project. The project includes renovation of existing roadways, curb and gutter, sidewalk, drainage features, street widening, minority grade, and minor grading on Haynes Road and Haynes Court. At the bid opening, there were 9 bid participants for this bid. The selection for Stanley Concrete was selected. The funding for the project is provided through CIP 43A, Haynes Road Improvement, and 40D, Haynes Court. It is recommended that the Mayor and City Council of Laurel award the subject contract to Stanley Concrete, a certified minority business enterprise, disadvantaged business enterprise out of Annapolis Junction, Maryland, for their low bid of $320,510.50 and an additional $60,000 as a contingency for a total of $380,510.50. The references for this contractor, which includes work performed by the City of Bowie, Maryland, for the City of Bowie, Maryland, and for the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, have been verified and are acceptable. And I am available for any other questions you may have for this project.
All right. Any questions from the council? All right. This agenda item was discussed at the special work session before this meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, make a motion to approve the bid recommendation Stanley Concrete, an amount that Director Lee read in the record.
Can I get a second?
Mr. President, I'll second.
All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Sidnor,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
President Smith.
Yes. All right, moving on to agenda item 8A, second public hearing with possible action on resolution number 2-22, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel to create the City of Laurel Arts Council, LAC Fund. I've read the title into the record for the second reading. Madam Clerk, is there anyone signed up to speak?
Mr. President, there's nobody signed up to speak on this item.
All right, I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:34 p.m. and close the public hearing at 6:34 p.m. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, make a motion to approve resolution number 2-22.
All right, can I get a second?
Mr. President, I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Sidnor,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
President Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Mo.
All right, moving on to agenda item 8B, second public hearing with possible action on resolution number 3-22, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, Maryland to establish the City of Laurel Pride Day Celebration Planning Committee. I've read the title into the record for the second reading. Madam Clerk, is there anyone signed up to speak?
Mr. President, there's nobody signed up to speak on this item.
All right, I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:35 p.m. and close the public hearing at 6:35 p.m. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion, but before I do that, I would like to say that since our first work session and the last first public hearing on this, I have received a lot of outcry from the community about how happy they are that this is going to be happening. So this planning committee will allow us to establish a Pride Day and have a community event on the second Saturday of October later this year. With that, Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 3-22.
All right, can I get a second?
I second, Mr. President.
All right, any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Sidnor,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
President Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Mo.
All right, moving on to agenda item 8C. An introduction of the first public hearing on Charter Resolution number 175, a charter resolution of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, Maryland to amend the Article 300 of the Charter of the City of Laurel entitled Government by amending Section 311 Salary of Council Members to provide the method of the calculation for and the timing of any salary adjustments for the City Council members. I've read the title into the record for the first reading. Madam Clerk, is there anyone signed up to speak?
We have Jennifer Betchner, I believe, Bocher.
All right. I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:37 p.m. and we'll have you speak.
There we go. Hi, Jennifer Bocher, resident in Hilltop Court, Laurel, Maryland. I saw this on the agenda and want to let you know that we do appreciate what you do. We do believe you deserve a good salary so that allows others to also participate, and it would open up the opportunity for people who are economically depressed to be able to participate on the council and also as a mayor. So I support this. I'm just saying, yay team.
Thank you. All right. Madam Clerk, is there anyone else signed up to speak? That was all?
Mr. President, there's no one else signed up to speak.
All right. I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:38 p.m. I've read the title into the record for the first reading and will be added to the May 4th work session agenda if there's any additional discussion. Second public hearing on possible action at the Mayor and City Council meeting on Monday, May 9th, 2022 at 6 p.m. All right. Now moving on to agenda item 8D. Introduction and first public hearing on the Charter Resolution number 176. A charter resolution of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, Maryland to amend Article 300 of the Charter of the City of Laurel entitled Government by amending Section 351 Salary of the Mayor to provide the manner of calculation for and the timing of any salary adjustments for the mayor. I've read the title into the record for the first reading. Madam Clerk, is there anyone signed up to speak?
Mr. President, there's nobody signed up to speak on this item.
All right. Well, I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:39 p.m. and close the public hearing at 6:39 p.m. This will be added to the May 4th work session agenda if there's any additional discussion. Second public hearing with possible action at the Mayor and City Council meeting on Monday, May 9th, 2022 at 6 p.m.
Could I say something?
Sure, Mr. Mayor.
I just wanted to make sure everybody's clear. What we're doing here is cleaning up some problems we had in charter on salaries. And I also want to make sure it's clear, it's not about the mayor and council that are up here now. It's for the next council and next mayor on when we talk about the salaries. We can't give ourselves promotions or increase our salary, it has to go to the next mayor and city council. So I want to make sure everybody was clear on that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. All right. Moving on to agenda item 8E, second public hearing with possible action on ordinance number 1996, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of Laurel, Maryland to approve map amendment number 925 to construct an additional 61 dwelling units at the properties known as the Patuxent Greens, located at 14415 Greenview Drive, Laurel, Maryland, 20708, submitted by CS Patuxent Greens, LLC, and provide an effective date. I read the title into the record for the second reading. Director Love, you have the floor.
Thank you, and good evening, Mr. President, Mayor, and council members. Before you is map amendment number 925, ordinance number 1996, as required by City of Laurel Code, providing legislation to increase the total dwelling units for the project to 450 total for the properties located at 14415 Greenview Drive, Laurel, Maryland, 20708. The applicant, CS Patuxent LLC, is seeking a map amendment to construct an additional 61 dwelling units to bring the total for the development to 450 dwelling units to the property known as Patuxent Greens Development. Under the date of February 24, 2022, corresponding materials and a cover letter asking for comments were sent to the following agencies: the Maryland State Highway Administration, Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, Prince George's County Health Department, Baltimore Gas and Electric, the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Prince George's County Department of Permitting, Inspections and Enforcement, Verizon, Prince George's County Public Schools Department of Capital Programs, Prince George's County Council District 1 member, and Prince George's County Office of the Clerk of Council. Under the date of February 24, 2021, a memorandum and corresponding materials asking for comments was also sent to the following city departments: the Department of Public Works, the Police Department, the Department of Parks and Recreation, and the Department of Fire Marshal and Permit Services. The following agencies provided responses: Prince George's County Health Department, Maryland Department of Planning, Maryland State Highway Administration, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, and the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission. Following responses were received from city departments. The Laurel Police Department had no issues with the request, as the Laurel Department of Parks and Recreation and the Department of the Fire Marshal. The City of Laurel Department of Public Works stated the following: that the proposed changes with additional houses will need stormwater management plan revision. After the county's review and approval, a copy needs to be provided to the Department of Public Works for documentation. If the configuration of any public streets will be changed due to the increased house units, the plan needs to be reviewed and approved by the Department of Public Works. If more street lights are needed due to the increased house units, street reconfigurations, all street lights need to be LED and approved by Department of Public Works. Department of Public Works previously commented on the parking concerns for this development project. Please provide us any parking summary and a statement to address the parking concerns with increased 61 townhouse units. We do not have comments for the revised traffic impact study at this time. Please provide us a construction timeline for all approved traffic improvements for the project. The applicant is responsible for any damages to public and private right-of-way during the construction. And if any utility cuts performed on the city street alley, they need to follow the city standards with permanent patches in the cut area with a 2-inch mill and overlay from curb to curb and a minimum of 25 feet in each direction of cut. The scope of the restoration work will be determined by the Public Works project inspector. No other comments were received. A letter explaining the nature of the application and advising of the scheduled public hearings on the application before the Planning Commission was sent by mail to all contiguous property owners. A memorandum from the City of Laurel Planning Commission to the Mayor and Laurel City Council dated April 13, 2022 reads as follows. At the regular meeting of the City of Laurel Planning Commission held on April 12, 2022, the following action was taken on the subject zoning application. The Commission, on the motion by Ms. Bonner, seconded by Mr. Welford, and carried on a roll call vote of all members present, voted to recommend approval of map amendment application number 925, Ordinance 1996, for 14415 Greenview Drive, Laurel, Maryland 20708, as presented in the technical staff report and proposed ordinance to the Mayor and City Council. This includes the following conditions. 1. The applicant shall apply for and obtain preliminary subdivision plan revision approval from the City of Laurel Planning Commission. 2. The applicant shall apply for and obtain admitted final site landscape plan approval from the City of Laurel Planning Commission. 3, the applicant shall apply for and obtain final record plat for subdivision approval from the Laurel Planning Commission. The file contains a certificate of publication verifying that this application and public hearing was advertised in the March 31st, 2022 and April 7th, 2022 issues of the Prince George's Post. The file contains an affidavit signed by the applicant attesting that a zoning sign has been placed on the subject property, has remained, and shall remain until a decision is reached by the City Council. The applicant and their team are present and available for questions. That concludes the reading of the file, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Director Lee. All right. Madam Clerk, is there anyone signed up to speak? We'll just start with Jennifer.
Yes, and then all these other.
All right. I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:45 p.m. And I'm going to call Jennifer, excuse me if I mess up your name, Bocher, to the floor. All right.
Hello, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. I was at some of those planning committee meetings, and they weren't anonymous. They were divided decisions at one of them. I know that. Anyway, I'm a resident at 9302 Hilltop Court in Patuxent Glen, HOA. I've been there since '07, and I'm sure you all are familiar with this area. It's been under dispute for a while. There is only one way in and one way out, and that's for our community, the new Patuxent Greens community, as well as the condo community and the new the building that they're looking to remodel. That is a safety issue. That one way in and one way out, assuming that 61 new units would include 2 cars, and that's if, and that doesn't include if you have any adult children or teenagers, those added cars into that, I know they're going to make it a rotary to make it so it'll be a little bit fair. It's dangerous. If somebody just has an accident on a rotary, that's going to block all of our communities from getting to work so that we couldn't pay taxes. It is, no, well, that one day, of course, no one's going to lose their job, but it's just unsafe to add that many more cars going in and out of that rotary. Since the beginning, I've said, why can't you get another exit? Why can't you just pay for a variance to get another exit out of that community, the Patuxent Glen Greens community? Because that's where all those houses and those people are coming in. So I stand against this as a citizen of Laurel, and I just wanted to let you all know that.
Thank you, Mrs. Bocher. Next up, we have Wendy Gagan.
When do you want to sit down and we can bring the mic over to you?
It's just that when I sit, I
Okay,
sit.
all right.
I'm a mess. COVID kept me from getting my knee done. That's my issue. A lot of new faces since I've been back. Yeah, nice. Hello. Is this on?
Yes.
Okay. All right. My name's Wendy Gagan, and I live at 14103 Greenview Drive, which is at the end of the cul-de-sac, overlooking what was once the golf course. And I'm also living in one of a dozen homes that are still very much on the high-risk 100-year floodplain. I'm an original resident of Patuxent Glen since 1989, and over the years I've enjoyed the relationship to the country club that gave special benefits to residents, including a free year of membership for several years that came with the purchase of a house. I also played a lot of golf and had a lot of friends in the community that, since the project has begun, have moved away. But there were problems too, from the start with the builder Ledoux, who was cutting corners in construction and playing games with escrowed funds, and finally went bankrupt and was banned from further work in the county. This left a lot of us, as well as the city of Laurel, holding the bag with expenses that resulted from third-rate construction practices that had gone unnoticed because the city had allowed Ledoux to be responsible for inspecting his own project. Well, that was then, and this is now. But to residents like me, now seems like deja vu all over again. As I have recently become aware that NVR, the builder for the Patuxent Greens project, has a terrible reputation that for decades has been all over the internet and local news. NVR constructs under 3 brands: Ryan Homes, NVR Homes, and Heartland Homes, and has been implicated and convicted in many lawsuits over the years involving consumer fraud, shoddy workmanship, and customer intimidation when complaints are made and claims filed. Because of this kind of behavior, New Jersey has permanently banned them from building in that state. A case won by New Jersey's Attorney General Beau Biden, the president's son, who's now deceased. In Maryland, things have also been bad. Just ask the homeowners in Sunset Island near Ocean City, who are on the hook for $40,000 each because Ryan NVR refuses to pay for serious water damage due to construction defects. Or ask the family in PG County whose home was built over an underground stream never disclosed by Ryan NVR in 15 years of unsuccessful litigation. These are just a sample of the problems in Maryland. And they're so bad that our senators, Cardin and Van Hollen, have for several years been urging the Attorney General to pull NVR's license to build in our state. And they have had no success, which is probably a story in itself why this is true. Building a development like Patuxent Greens on a raised floodplain is very complicated, even experimental, and sound construction practices require a special expertise to fulfill many unique regulations. Why I'm bringing this up and why I'm really concerned is because I want to know who vetted NVR for this project and what liabilities will the city and the developer have if things continue with NVR like they are all over the place, not only during the building of the project, but in the future. So I'm just throwing this out because we're talking about increasing the number of units, and I think we have a problem with the builder. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Gagan. Next, I have up Alan Cohen. No?
You had a little aside at the last meeting when you were leaving about roads and
Can you, you're on the mic. Sorry.
All right. I'll email you. Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council, Mr. Mayor. William Shipp with law offices in Greenbelt here today on behalf of the applicant. I'm not going to go through the whole presentation, and Mr. Love summarized things very well. We appreciate all his assistance in this. We are certainly here to answer any questions you might have. I would say, in regard to Ms. Gagan's comments, that I do not represent MVR, and Mr. Cohen is not part of MVR, but I can tell you that we've had no complaints from the new resident at Patuxent Greens. And the discussion that Ms. Gagan was laying appears when she references the senators may be looking into getting licensing look at MVR. It's really a state licensing issue and is not part of this land use process. But I certainly appreciate her coming down and expressing concerns. We are here to answer any questions. We did have the work session. We had a first public hearing. We had a planning commission review, which was unanimous at that time on this amendment. And we would respectfully request this council approval of amendment, which really just allows us to go to the next step to try to get to the 450, which was approved with the first council resolution. And as far as the first citizens comment, Ms. Butcher, we did evaluate the entire project at 450 units at the outset, and we are proposing an additional turning movement into Greenview Drive from 197 that has obtained conceptual approval from the State Highways Administration. So we're proposing to add yet an additional improvement that could help circulation there. You've heard those comments. And with that, we are here to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to move on to the next person.
Wait, I got a question.
No, I still got people calling.
Oh, it's another. Okay, got you.
So, I have a Charlie Howe. That was. Oh, you both. Sorry. And Bill Ship. Okay. All right, and Tony Drake.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tony Drake. I live at 9338 Creekview Drive in Laurel, Maryland, adjacent to this new development. Everyone has spoken about the traffic. That continues to be a problem, especially now that there are people who are moving in. I'm seeing it myself. My next door neighbor actually was in an accident right at that intersection where they have some permanent stop signs, but then they have, I call them the makeshift signs, where they have like sand bags to kind of hold them up, but it didn't matter. And she was in an accident, and thankfully now she's doing well, but that made it personal to me. The other thing that concerns me is that when this whole process started, we were told that there were going to be X number of units. There were many people in my community who were like, that's too many. You know, everyone was up in arms. The developer, his lawyers and some meetings with the community said, all right, we'll bring it down. We won't have as many. Well, now it's like this slowly creeping back up. And part of me feels that if you give your word, and if you give your word to the council, and if the council approved this project over the objections of a lot of the affected citizens based on that number, then you should be required to stick with that number and not come back several years later when we have lots of new members on the council who weren't here when that first started. And it seems like now you're going to try to sneak in some new figures. This 61 additional units, when they first talked about this, there were going to be a certain number of townhomes, and then the majority were going to be these single family homes. But now these additional units, as far as my understanding, and I, may be wrong and you can, correct me, these are going to be townhouses. So again, they're deviating from what they told us when we first started. They're deviating from all of these nice maps and things that they showed us that, again, were in effect when the council first gave them that approval. Many of my neighbors who were there when this process had started have moved. They're like, that's it. We can't deal with a lot of the construction. As an aside, just on a personal note, some of the residents in the old field have found that my house is a lovely place to hang out. And so I have had to call, the exterminator to come in and evict the field mice who are now running around our neighborhood because, they need some place to stay. But a lot of the residents have moved. Other residents are still there, but they won't come out to any of these meetings because they believe the council doesn't listen to us. It doesn't matter what we say. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. I've even heard people complain about, it was all a bait and switch, that sort of thing. I refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe that our council would do that to us. I say they have a right to build. They have a right to do things with their property. We have a right to live in peace. We have a right to peacefully coexist. But that does not include them every so often sneaking in an amendment, changing it, adding on to what was the original agreement. And that I am absolutely against. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tony Drake. I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:01 p.m. And I'm going to go to questions, or I'll give you a chance to speak on that if you'd like. And then I'll go to questions from the council. I'm going to open the public hearing for you to speak at 7:01 p.m. again.
Just a few points, Mr. President, and then certainly here to answer any questions. William Shipp again. Is that better? First of all, the traffic improvements were evaluated for 450 units. As I said, we appreciate citizens' concerns about traffic, and we're working together on improvement. We have started the process of putting to bid the work that would rephase the signal in on from 197 and Clubhouse Drive to get a safer left turn dedicated lane. So we're on that, and we will be following up the traffic circle itself. We'll be working with your Public Works Department on the timing of that because, of course, you don't want to install something new like that until the major truck traffic with the construction is completed because it might tear up the road. So we're aware of those concerns, and we continue to work with your staff on timing, and we'll pledge to keep doing that. As you heard in Mr. Love's report, there were a number of things that Public Works had asked for continued updates on, and we will do that. The other thing I wanted to say is this is not sneaking in process. We've been through the full process on this amendment. It's in response to what our builder is seeing out in the market for demand. These are the largest townhouse units. And I would say that this is the first step. I alluded to it before, but I want to make sure everybody in the audience at home understands that this review just allows for us to go, if we're successful, would allow us to go forward and then file a preliminary plan and a final site landscape plan, which would drill down and evaluate this layout in much more detail. It doesn't guarantee us the 450. It allows us to pursue it at the next step. And we would go through all of these reviews that were referenced either by citizens or by Public Works at that time. So I don't want anybody to think that there won't be further plans shown to the Planning Commission if we're allowed to be, because there will be. With that, we're here to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. You had a question on Councilman Mitchell.
Yeah, so it was a couple questions. I appreciate you guys for coming in, and of course the residents. I wasn't on the council when obviously this decision was made, but I do remember the issue and the concern around it. And I'm not too familiar with NVN. or NVR, but I am familiar with Ryan Holmes and Norm Riviera. And, you know, I will say that some of the horror stories that she spoke about are very true inside of Prince George's County. And I know from the personal level, because of working at the county government, dealing with Norm and, you know, some of the problems that existed, you know, they refused to fix. So I do know that some of those problems do exist, and I realize that you guys have started building homes, and you know some of those concerns might not have been expressed yet, but some of these concerns that I'm mentioning were 5-10 years later on where they realized these problems. So I do want to say that you know there probably is some truth there with the.
I appreciate your comments, Councilman, and the citizens' comments. Certainly, I would pledge that if there's ever a concern that you hear about or that your staff hears about, let us know, and we will make sure we get the NVR and convey those concerns. My client is committed to making this a first-class development. We want to know there are problems, and we'll follow up accordingly if that's the case.
Sure. I appreciate it, and I had a few questions for you. My first one was, who is responsible for the stormwater management plan, as far as maintaining it?
That is a two-part answer.
Sure.
There is a stormwater management facility, let's call it, which is involved with converting the golf course pond to a fully functional stormwater management pond. There's facilities within that that create the ability for the water to be channeled down to the compensatory storage, and from the pond system, there's a storm drain system with large drainage pipes that would go to ultimately the compensatory storage. That stormwater management system is maintained by the county, Prince George's County. The compensatory storage area, which is basically more a passive open area, and the associated underground gravel wetlands areas will be owned and maintained by the HOA. But the active stormwater management structures will be maintained by the county.
Understood. I appreciate it. And I was made aware that this project is supposed to increase green space.
Yes.
Can you explain that? Just explain that for me.
Well, this is another interesting explanation, because as I tried to make clear when we had the work session and the public hearing, this proposed amended layout is smaller in terms of its development pad than the original approved development pad with the original council ordinance, which allowed up to 450. And so I think it picks up about 4 acres of green space. There is a lot of green space that is converted when you don't have the single family yards into common use open space, which we've tried to consolidate around some of the active recreational trail type uses. But I want to make clear I'm not misleading folks. When we came back in for the final site and landscape plan at 389 units, that development pad is similar in size to what we would be proposing. So we're less than what the original PUD approval was, but about equal to what the final site and landscape plan came in, with more of that same space being put into general open space as opposed to backyard scene. I hope that makes sense. I know it's kind of a convoluted explanation.
Sure. And are any of these areas that are considered proposed green space like swamps?
Well, swamp, no, but there's, we have a large, let me back up. There's a large component of open space, green space, and then conservation area. There is about a 55-acre piece of land, which is on the other side of the creek, which I believe is called Bear Branch. And that is what I would term a swamp. I'm not an engineer, but that is more of a wetland, will never be touched with development. The compensatory storage and some of the water features that have come with the development of stormwater management, I would refer to more as water features than swamps. There's also wetlands increasing the wetland. We're creating wetlands, which is a good environmental situation out there. and is a better filtration buffer from our development in the surrounding neighborhood before you get to Patuxent. And then there's regular open space, which would be more usable for residents, where there's a trail system and there's some open areas for pocket parks and a clubhouse facility.
Okay, I appreciate it. And but the last question was, I know there was a concern about contamination at one of the parcels. So I just wanted to know, had the contamination process cleanup, had that already started, or is that in the works? Okay.
Yeah, I would say that any golf course, there is dirt that needs to be dealt with. And we have an environmental management plan that was prepared by the geotechnical engineer and was reviewed and approved by MDE. And when I say it's not only started but ongoing, but as we go through phases of development, we have to continue to remediate sections, and we have to continually update MDE with our progress. And we'd be happy to keep your staff informed as well with any progress. But it is ongoing as we go through the grading process that we remediate that soil pursuant to the approved environmental management plan.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from the rest of the council?
Yeah, Mr. President, I got a question for staff. I don't have the staff report in front of me, Mr. Love, but what was Prince George County Public School position on additional housing?
They actually, we didn't receive any comments from them.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
And Councilman Cole, do you have any comments or questions?
I have a comment I just wanted to bring up from our last public hearing. Mr. DeWalt had questioned the floodplain and said that the intersection coming out of the community would be underwater, trapping residents from the development. I was able to obtain from staff the proposed floodplain, and it shows that that intersection is no longer underwater in the event of a flood, and the floodplain actually removes a good deal of homes from the existing communities out of the floodplain. There are still a few homes that are in the floodplain, but this removes a majority of the homes that are currently there out of that plain.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Cole. I'll entertain a motion. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
That's okay, Mr. Shipp. We were talking about water, and there's been some comments made that on the 197 section on the county side, where all the runoff is coming off, what has the county done to help mitigate that? Or I know we were trying to broker some meetings with National Capital Park and Planning. That is a lot of water that's coming from that side, as well as there needs to be cleanup over there. So could you comment on that at all?
Sure, and I won't take too much time, but I'll give you background that I have. There's a couple of streams that come across 197. One is coming in where Bear Branch is. I don't think, in large part, that's an issue because there's the parcel that we're having as the conservation area, and we're also fortifying the levee that was constructed before. That was not apparently reviewed by MDE at the time. What we are doing to fortify that levee is fully reviewed and approved by MDE. So that will help protect that side. As far as there's another creek on the other side, it's unnamed, but I think they refer to Snow Hill. It comes under 197, has been a source of a lot of overflow, let's just say. Luckily, I guess I'd say luckily, but on the existing Patuxent Glen neighborhood, there's a HOA parcel between the stream and actual house lots. If you're back there, you'd think it was just somebody's yard, but it's actually a HOA parcel. So most of the water that pools in heavy rains is within that HOA parcel. We were in contact with your staff and with Park and Planning and with the county to try to get some effort to clean up that stream, to try to remove obstruction. Your staff was very responsive. We even held a volunteer cleanup out there with the Patuxent Glens folks. We had a couple people come out. Most of the team here tonight, we actually went out and just picked up trash and removed some heavy blockages from limbs that had gone down across the stream. that kind of work could help a lot, but there's probably more that's needed. And we, frankly, have not, and with your staff probably concurring, have not gotten much follow-up from the county or park and planning concerning cleaning up the stream on their property. The county's review is basically they're responsible for looking at all the upstream issues. And I think in Laurel, you have a number of things to look at. And staff had been working with them on that. Park and planning has not done anything on their stream as far as I know, other than what they allowed us to do on that volunteer. So it's been a source of common concern, but I will say this, that the compensatory storage has been reviewed and fortified in a way that it is handling that water from that stream. So I think that a lot of the issues with that stream have been addressed with the work that's been done, but it is a little frustrating that there's still work to do.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ship. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:15 p.m. and I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion, but before I make that motion, I want to make one more comment. I was here, and actually I just joined the council in 2018 when it first came before us. I know it was a lot of information was going on. I was overwhelmed, but I've been on the council for 5 years now, almost 5 years, and familiar with this process a little more than I was at first. I just want to thank the citizens for coming out. Your concerns are heard. We listen to you guys. There's a process every time we do something. Nothing is like under the table. Everything comes before the council and the planning commission, and unfortunately, business things change. So I just wanted you guys to know we do hear your concerns. Our job as a council is to trust us. We make the best decision for the city ongoing. So with that, Mr. President, I make a motion to approve MAP Amendment 925, Ordinance 1996.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that, Mr. President.
All right. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Mr. Sidnor?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
No.
President Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Mo?
All right. There being no further business to come before the mayor and city council, this meeting is adjourned.
Now.